please welcome to the stage actor, director, producer, and Innocence Project board member, Tony Goldwyn.
Good evening, everyone. Wow, this is an incredible turnout here tonight. It's a real honor for me to welcome you all to this year's celebration of freedom and justice. My personal passion for the work of freeing the wrongly convicted started a number of years ago when I directed and produced a film called Conviction. And, oh, thanks. Conviction told the story of Kenny Waters, who spent 18 years in prison for a murder that he didn't commit. And in 2001, Kenny was exonerated with the help of the Innocence Project and especially the superhuman efforts of his incredible, amazing, I told you I would embarrass you, Betty Ann, extraordinarily brilliant sister who, Betty Ann Waters, who is here tonight. Betty Ann refused to accept that her brother was guilty, and she went to law school and became an attorney just to figure out a way to get Kenny out. And it took her a little over 18 years, but she did it. So during my work on the film, I got to know Barry, Scheck, and Peter Neufeld, as well as so many of the other extraordinary lawyers and staff members of the Innocence Project, and I was hooked. It did not take long for me to realize that, shocking as it was, Kenny's story was not at all unique. Every single person who has been locked away for a crime that they didn't commit has a similar story. Every member of their families has been similarly traumatized. And the person who actually committed the crime for which they've been imprisoned has walked free. I saw the profound impact that the Innocence Project was having not only on the lives of the innocent and their families, but on the movement to reform our broken criminal justice system as a whole. Yeah, so seeing all that, I mean, you know, my commitment to the work has just grown from there, and now I am proud to say that I'm a board member of the Innocence Project and the co-chair, along with my friend John Grisham, of the Innocence Ambassadors, many of whom are here tonight, so I want to give a shout out to a couple of them. We have actress and activist Aisha Hines recently joined us. So welcome aboard, Aisha. The absolutely brilliant and renowned photographer Taryn Simon is here. I'm told I didn't see you, Taryn, but great to see you. I also heard that my buddy Paul Schneider, the great actor Paul Schneider, is here, but there's so many of you here, I'm able to find my friends, but welcome, Paul. And last but definitely not least, my dear friend and fellow ambassador Nnamdi Asomugha, who will be honoring later this evening, is in the house. Welcome, Nnamdi. Along with tonight's two other honorees, Chris Stone and my fellow board member, Verad Rabia. So congratulations to you guys. It's a real thrill to have everyone here. You know, like I said, this is a packed house. We have 1,000 people here tonight. It is sold out. I don't know if this is true, but it feels like the biggest one yet. And to look out into this sea of faces is incredibly inspiring, because what that says to me is that together we're making a collective statement that we will not stop fighting until we fix this nation's broken criminal justice system. And that also together we form a united front to say to all of our exonerees and their families, in fact, to every innocent person who is still languishing in prison tonight, we believe in you, we have your backs, and we will not rest until you receive the justice you deserve. So with that, I will turn it over to my longtime friend and executive director of the Innocence Project, Maddy deLone.
Thank you, Tony. It's a tremendous honor to be here tonight with all of you and to celebrate the freedom and courage of our clients and their families. We are proud to pay tribute to their endurance and courage, which inspires our board and our staff to work as hard as we can to forge a criminal justice system that is based on compassion, equality, and science. We are especially grateful to have with us 10 Innocence Project clients and 3 people, others, who were wrongly convicted alongside them, all of whom have been freed in this past year. Together, they spent 311 years in prison, and each person's story represents a profound failure in our nation's criminal justice system. With your help, we are addressing those systemic failures that contribute to wrongful convictions time and time again, including eyewitness misidentification, the misapplication of forensic science, false confessions, racial bias, over-reliance on guilty pleas, and government misconduct. You will have a chance to meet these newly freed people and dozens of others who are here with us at the end of tonight's program. And we're going to get to everything that is in the program and more, although I'll just give you fair warning that a few things will be in a slightly different order, so stick with us. It's going to be a great evening. It is my pleasure now to acknowledge some of the people who, along with all of you, make this work possible, and there are many to thank. I am very pleased to extend, although I can't see him, a very special thank you to our benefit chair and outstanding board member and champion, Jason Flom. I can see you. Thank you to the chairs of tonight's event, whose names are on the screens around the room and also in your program. Thank you so much to all of them. And thank you to our leadership committee, whose names are also on the screens around the room and in the program. I would like to recognize also the Innocence Project's extraordinary and wonderful board of directors and ask them to please stand. We can't do it without you. You make us good. I'd ask the students from the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law at Yeshiva University, who work so closely with our legal team and make it possible for us to work on behalf of as many clients as we do each year. So would the students at Cardozo please stand? And special thanks and gratitude to Cardozo's wonderful dean, Melanie Leslie, who is such a fabulous partner to all of us. Thank you, Melanie. And finally, last in this round of thanks, but certainly not least, I want to thank the Innocence Project staff and ask them to stand. We are 80 strong, we are 80 necessary, And I wholeheartedly believe and tell them often, and maybe they don't always believe me, but it's always true, that each and every one of them could work anywhere they wanted to work and do whatever they wanted to do. And it's because they choose to spend their time and their energies here at the Innocence Project that this work, that the things we celebrate tonight are possible. So really, another round of applause for them. Now, if you don't already follow us on social media, and I'm sure many of you do, I encourage you to join us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and things I don't know about. Our digital community is growing, and it's a great way to be connected with our work. And I encourage you to join us there, and you can start tonight or continue tonight by posting about tonight's event at #InnocenceGala. It's on the screen if you forget it, Innocence Gala. There it is. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our co-founders and co-directors, Peter Neufeld and Barry Scheck.
Thank you, Maddy, and thank you all for being with us tonight to honor the courage of our clients, to celebrate the accomplishments of the IP over the past year, and to reflect on our ambitions for the future. Over the last 12 months, the Innocence Project successfully freed, as you heard from Maddy, a record number of wrongly convicted. 12 of our clients plus 4 co-defendants for a record-breaking 16 people. And in that group of 16, there are a whole bunch of other milestones for the project. The Innocence Project's longest-serving exonerated client, he endured 38 years in Angola prison, also known as the Farm, a hellhole of a prison that before the Civil War was an actual plantation. And frankly, it's not all that different today. The 30th person nationwide was cleared after being wrongly indicted or convicted based on scientifically invalid bite mark evidence. Yet we still are fighting to get the courts to throw this stuff out forever. Our very own 200th client to be exonerated walked free 4 months ago. Later this evening, you will meet almost all of the people we helped free this year. Each of them endured unspeakable injustice. Their presence with us tonight is an honor, and frankly, it is the most potent illustration of why we do our work.
The Innocence cases this year illustrate dramatic contrasts in the response of prosecutors and courts to our pursuit of justice. Some of the clients here tonight encountered resistance at every turn from prosecutors that refused to acknowledge overwhelming evidence of their innocence. Others were exonerated after reinvestigations by conviction integrity units that worked collaboratively with us in a non-adversarial search for the truth. That collaborative, non-adversarial approach makes a difference, provides an opportunity to learn from error, and ultimately improves the administration of justice for everyone if we take it seriously. Nationally, we kept working to protect the gains that have been made towards ensuring the integrity of forensic evidence in the criminal justice system. We continue to push for investment in the science and research critical to setting standards for the forensic disciplines used in criminal investigations in the courts. This year, our strategic litigation unit won court decisions related to false confessions, the inherent unreliability of cross-racial identifications, and kept emerging and unreliable forensic technologies from being admitted to court at all. They litigated creatively in misdemeanor courts and in capital cases, while training thousands of judges and attorneys on how to better engage with scientific evidence in the courts.
And that's just the litigation. Meanwhile, our expanding policy reform work is reshaping criminal justice law, criminal justice practices, and procedures nationwide, instituting reforms to address the causes of and eliminate future wrongful convictions. After years of advocacy, we have finally achieved a critical mass in state reforms for improving eyewitness identification procedures and mandating the video recording of interrogations. You know, I said tens of thousands, but I was corrected, thank goodness. Millions of people are or will be the beneficiaries of these unprecedented improvements. And we're taking on new issues as well. And as you will see, we are getting, for the first time for criminal justice, very compelling bipartisan support. Texas passed a groundbreaking bill to regulate the use of incentivized informants. And shortly thereafter, Illinois did the same. The Massachusetts legislature enacted what is in theory the most robust state-based commission to address the misuse of forensic science in criminal investigations and adjudications. In Wyoming, we succeeded in our first push, in Wyoming, for a law that lets people back into court if their conviction was based on unreliable or unvalidated forensic science. Kansas enacted one of the strongest laws in the country to compensate the wrongly convicted. We pushed for Maryland and Pennsylvania to lift bans on DNA testing for people who had pled guilty. Just one example of how our policy and communications work will continue to confront the nation's over-reliance on guilty pleas and its fundamental distortion of justice. If 95% of the criminal cases or more are disposed of through plea bargaining, imagine the number of innocent people who take a plea simply because they can't risk the excessive sentences handed out if they demand and lose at trial.
The Innocence Project continues to expand our commitment to illuminate the racial bias and structural racism that undermines the criminal justice system as we encounter it in our work. 2018 marks 50 years since the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Just days before that anniversary, the Innocence Project and our colleagues from almost 70 organizations of the Innocence Network came together for our annual conference in Memphis, Tennessee. At the end of our gathering, hundreds of exonerees led us in a march through the streets to the Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Motel. This stirring moment was the largest ever march of exonerated people demanding justice and change. You will hear and see more about this unprecedented march later tonight from the man who envisioned it and helped make it happen. None of our work would be possible without our clients. Their cases guide us to identify how and where the system must change. But even more importantly, their experiences drive us forward in the struggle to transform the system so that others may be spared the injustices they have endured. We thank our clients for their bravery, their resilience, and their grace. And we thank all of you for being here to celebrate this year's success and to renew our commitment to all the work that is still to come. Thanks.
So that was opening remarks. Now we move on. Don't worry. It's now my privilege to present tonight's first award, and it'll be to Chris Stone. Chris is a visionary advocate in the cause of criminal justice reform and a stalwart friend, guide, and advisor to the Innocence Project since its very founding. but Chris's interest in wrongful convictions goes back a long time, for almost 40 years. As a law student, Chris had a close-up experience with wrongful convictions. In his summer at law school in 1980, he worked for the Atlanta-based civil rights Team Defense that took on a corrupt, racist prosecution in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, a case where the KKK helped whip up the community's hysteria. 3 young black men were railroaded into convictions for rape and murder they did not commit, and they received life sentences. It would take 30 more years before they were all exonerated by DNA testing in 2010. Chris carried that gross injustice that he experienced that summer with him throughout his career. Even before the Innocence Project existed, Barry and I were familiar with Chris's remarkable work. During his 10 years leading the Vera Institute of Justice, he co-founded the Neighborhood Defender Service of Harlem, a pioneer of holistic community-based legal defense. He led innovative work to invent, test empirically, build and institutionalize formidable solutions to some of the more intractable obstacles to meaningful justice. He confronted racial disparities, the lack of public trust in policing, and he helped secure alternatives to incarceration. More than 20 years ago, Barry and I sought out Chris's advice to explore ways to leverage the DNA exonerations. When the Innocence Project became its own not-for-profit, Chris became a crucial advisor who we turned to very often. He facilitated our strategic plan almost a decade ago, helping us expand our reach by adding a strategic litigation unit and the network support unit to assist innocence organizations across the country and around the world, and urging us to expand our policy work much more deeply throughout the country. And when Chris became the president of the Open Society Foundations in 2012, he strengthened our longstanding partnership with the foundations, a relationship that went back almost 20 years. And during his tenure at Open Societies, the foundations made the Innocence Project a substantial challenge grant, a grant that helped make us, or enabled us, to use that grant as an anchor of a reserve fund that will protect and sustain the project's capacity to keep working for justice into the future. For his vision, for his passion, for justice, and his extraordinary compassion for the victims of our system's unfairness, it is our pleasure to present the Award for Freedom and Justice to Chris Stone.
I'm honored to be here with you all tonight to celebrate the extraordinary achievements of the Innocence Project and to support its ambitions for the future. It's difficult today to appreciate how unpopular a cause criminal justice reform was in 1989 when the first DNA exoneration occurred, and in 1992 when Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld launched the Innocence Project. These were peak years for crack cocaine, for New York City homicides, when criminal justice reform meant getting tougher, raising mandatory minimum sentences, doubling arrest rates, promoting 3 strikes laws, building supermax prisons, expanding the death penalty even here in New York State. Campaign consultants then warned politicians not to use the word justice in their campaign speeches because it was polling as soft on crime. The Innocence Project broke the logjam on real criminal justice reform. It was not the only champion of real reform, but the Innocence Project found an audience that had been deaf to the arguments of others. As the exonerations mounted, as dozens became hundreds, hubris among the heartless has given way to doubt. Realism has replaced fantasy. Real reform has become possible in the courts, in the legislatures, and even in election campaigns. Politicians are talking about justice again. Still, the Innocence Project is no innocent. The work is so hard. 356 men and women exonerated through DNA testing, yet Americans still don't see the extent of injustice that continues in our names. The latest research concludes that among newly sentenced prisoners, between 2 and 6% are factually innocent. That means there are between 8,000 and 24,000 factually innocent people convicted of felonies and entering prison every year. The fighters who people the Innocence Project know there are so many more battles ahead, and it's a powerful combination of outrage and an unflinching determination to make our system better that fuels their fight. Most important, among the thousands of wrongly convicted prisoners, the hundreds of exonerees are playing an especially powerful role, for they make the horror of the American justice system undeniable, the human harm undeniable. These exonerees and their families power the movement for justice reform with their lives, giving this cause a vividness far more persuasive than statistics. The true horror of wrongful convictions is that they are not merely the product of honest mistakes. In too many cases, the police, prosecutors, and judges simply didn't care because no one had made them care. The Innocence Project changed that. Today in 2018, I am an aspiring and remain an aspiring change artist, still practicing how to change struggling organizations, broken justice systems, and entrenched injustice. I have still so much to learn about change artistry from Barry and Peter and Maddy and Rodney, Jack, and so many more of you here tonight. But this I know, change does not come from wishful thinking or by waiting for others to act. Change is something we make together. It's a product of our struggle, our solidarity, our sacrifice. But I don't need to tell you this. You know, you are all making change, and tonight, I honor you. You are making change by your presence here tonight. You're making change by your insistence on humility in the face of hubris. You are making change by your solidarity with all exonerees and with all those yet to be exonerated. You are making change by your opposition to the tens of thousands of flawed and unnecessary prosecutions brought every year across this country. You're making change by your determination to stare injustice in the face and say, no, I will not be a party to your inhumanity. You are making change. You are making change because you are the Innocence Project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. It's my pleasure and honor to present this award to Verad Rabia. The Vice Chair of the Innocence Project's board and a distinguished graduate of the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law, where she worked in the early days, the very early days, on Innocence Project cases. There are some people in this world that you can just count on. People who will always show up, who will always find a way to make things work. People who can be trusted when it matters most. That is Verad. These qualities were apparent in her when she was a student working on cases. In those days, we were entirely, if you can imagine this, a student-powered run operation with no staff attorneys. She was brilliant, dedicated, and passionate from her very first encounter with this work. And even though she chose not to pursue a career as a criminal defense lawyer, and this broke my heart, I have to tell you, I know she would have excelled. Verad went on to great accomplishment in that, easy, soft world of New York real estate law. And it is no surprise, given her intelligence and her natural leadership abilities. It was to our great benefit that she returned to the Innocence Project in 2011 when she joined the IP board, first through a seat affiliated with Cardozo, and later became a board member in her own capacity. Verad impressed us from the very start with her vision for how making the Innocence Project's board stronger would make our work better and our successes more plentiful. She centers the Innocence Project in being true to our mission through her smart, forthright, down-to-earth commitment to the work we do. Her very presence helps assure the integrity of this institution. After all, she knows what it's like from the very beginning. Along with her predecessor in the board vice chair role, Stephen Schulte, Verad was tireless in creating systems and committees and structures that made us better and stronger and smarter. She made all this appear effortless, although it certainly was not. So last year, when Stephen stepped down from his role as board vice chair, it took no one any time to recognize that Verad should step up into the board leadership role. It is no small task to be asked to fill these shoes, but Verad and our new board chair, Jack Taylor, have forged a formidable partnership with Maddy and a clear vision for our path forward. Verad, we are so grateful you have assumed this role and are leading this institution into a future that we are confident in because of you. It is my pleasure to present the award for freedom and justice to our board vice chair, Verad Rabia.
Thank you, Barry, for this incredible honor. I want to thank all of my family, friends, and especially my colleagues from Skadden ARPS who came out in full force to support me tonight. I was first introduced to the Innocence Project when I was a law student at Cardozo Law School, and whereas Barry mentioned, I had the privilege as a student to work on Innocence Project cases. When I was offered an opportunity to join the board of the Innocence Project 7 years ago, I knew it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. It's a privilege which I don't take lightly, and it's been an extraordinary experience so far. Our board is just that, extraordinary. We all come from different backgrounds with different experiences, but we have the same commitment to and passion for the mission of the Innocence Project. And we are all driven to ensure that the Innocence Project's work continues to flourish. I am honored to be included among you. I would especially like to thank our former board chair, Rodney Ellis, who is here with us tonight, and board vice chair, Stephen Schulte. Our former board vice chair, Stephen Schulte, who could not make it here tonight, both of whom taught me everything I know about being an effective and impactful contributing member of the board. A few weeks ago, I mentioned to a friend that I would be honored at the gala tonight. In describing my experience with the Innocence Project over the past 7 years, I said, it's really crazy how time flies. And then it hit me. Time probably doesn't fly when you're in prison, in particular when you're in prison for a crime that you did not commit. I've had the opportunity to meet many exonerees, and when I meet them, arguably the worst of their ordeal is over. They're free again. But to survive, often for decades, being stripped of the most basic rights each and every one of us takes for granted, and to do so with courage, dignity, generosity of spirit, and without losing one's hope is truly remarkable. It's difficult for me to put in words how inspiring I find each and every one of you. I'm humbled by your strength, and it is all of you that we are here to honor tonight. I would like to thank our incredible executive director, Maddy, deLone, and all of the Innocence Project staff. You're too numerous to mention by name, but without each and every one of you, none of this could happen. As it turns out, dreams and dedication are a powerful combination. Just over 25 years ago, two lawyers identified systemic flaws in our criminal justice system and dared to dream that they could be instrumental in repairing that justice system to a system that was fairer for all. Barry and Peter, you are proof that if you dream it, if you map it, and if you work it, it can all happen. Under your stewardship over the past 25 years, the Innocence Project has become a fierce and relentless voice in the criminal justice world, pursuing justice for the wrongfully convicted and creating legislative change necessary to eradicate the most common underlying causes of wrongful conviction. My dream is to one day put the Innocence Project out of business, to reach the stage where no person is in prison for a crime they did not commit, and where we have a justice system that ensures that wrongful conviction is simply not an option. We still have a lot of work to do, but I know that with our incredible team and your support, we can dream it and we can make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Verad. It's my pleasure to introduce you all now to Cornelius Dupree. Cornelius was exonerated in April 2011 after spending more than 30 years in Texas prison for a rape and robbery he did not commit. Cornelius is a founding member of our Exoneree advisory group, which was formed a year and a half ago for the purpose of bringing exonerees together to advance the Innocence Project's work in a deeper and more meaningful way. Last year, Cornelius approached me with a vision. He wanted to organize a march that would be held during our 2018 Innocence Network Conference in Memphis, Tennessee. The march, Cornelius explained, would be especially significant because it would coincide with the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. I realized it would require many hands on deck to bring the march to fruition. But I knew that with Cornelius's spirit and dedication, he would get it done. And that he did. Please join me in welcoming Cornelius Dupree.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Maddy. Tonight we are here to recognize the Innocence Project pursuit of justice and freedom. More than 50 years ago, another group of people were here fighting for justice and freedom. This group was led by one of my heroes, the drum major for justice, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
who inspires all of us to this very day. I wanted to pay tribute to Dr. King by creating a march that will honor all exonerees who have fought and continue to fight for their justice and freedom. Dr. King said during his speech at the March on Washington in 1963, "We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back." With Dr. King's words still resonating, here is a video of the march I'm proud to share with you. Enjoy.
My name is Kenise Dupree from Dallas, Texas. I'm an exoneree who spent 30 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I now reside in Houston, Texas, along with my wife, Selma. You know, I still remember as a little kid, coming home from school, my mom crying, and I was really wondering why she was crying. And I looked over at the TV, and that's when I noticed Dr. King was assassinated. And so since that time, I've been a big fan of Dr. King. When I got word that we was gonna have our conference in Memphis, I said, well, why not have our own march? Since Dr. King stood for the injustices and things of that such, and I was wrongly in prison, I said, I felt like it'd be a good idea if we could get our own march going. I want it to be more or less like a reenactment of, the 60s when Dr. King marched. I want people to kind of get a feel of freedom, justice, equality. Because I want it to be a joyous time. I want people to have fun, and I want them to remember it for the rest of their lives. And let it be something that they can take back home and pass on to their kids, their grandkids, and that you had a joyous time and it was really something worth seeing.
Please welcome to the stage Innocence Project founding board member, CEO of Lava Records, and host of the podcast Wrongful Conviction, Jason Flom.
All right, New York City. How's everybody doing out there? Oh my God, I'm in the music business. We expect a little more enthusiasm. I said, how's everybody doing out there? Wow. All right, prove it. Can I get a whoop, whoop? All right, an Innocence Project whoop, whoop. I love it. First of all, Cornelius, thank you for being here, for sharing. I mean, you're a natural on stage, a hard act to follow, but what a guy, Cornelius. Another round of applause, please. And I'm obviously super happy to be here, happy to welcome all of you. We've come a long way. I think the first Innocence Project Gala was maybe me, Barry, Peter, and Maddy, and I don't know, maybe we had a waiter or something. The food hasn't changed, but everything else has gotten better. Now we have a room full of so many incredible exonerees. We have movie stars. We have hip-hop royalty here. We have billionaires and movers and shakers, and it's just a joy to see everybody coming together in this incredible cause and this amazing fight that we have. I've spent many years hearing the stories of our clients, and it's never ceased to amaze me how they manage to triumph and persevere over circumstances that would break almost anyone. And all of you inspire us every day to just keep fighting harder and harder to prevent this from happening to others and to honor your struggle. So again, what can I say? It's just, I'm actually in awe of every exoneree I've ever met. And so, yeah, it's just a thrill for me to be here. So, you know, the criminal justice system is not designed to take a second look at these things. It's, once you're in, and that's it. They don't like to admit mistakes. As Barry said, they'll fight us even after we've proven innocence. There's many men and women in this room who proved their innocence and then still had to go back through it again and then had to take a plea. But every man and woman that's freed from a wrongful conviction has proved their mettle through the extraordinary battle that it took to clear their name. Many of them taught themselves law in prison. Many of the men and women here tonight are lawyers. I'm a college dropout. That's pretty incredible if you ask me. Yeah, I dropped out of NYU. Not a proud day. But these are people who wrote hundreds of letters with just waiting for someone to hear their cry. A journalist, a lawyer, an activist, and they never gave up. And that is awesome. So the system that wrongfully imprisoned our clients obviously underestimated them. And the leadership that they've shown in fighting to clear their names is the same leadership that's going to change the entire criminal injustice system, as I call it. So we on the IP board, the Innocence Project board, we see this spirit in our new Exoneree advisory group, which was founded to help guide our work. And we learn so much from them every day. We see it as our clients courageously share their stories and reform the system that disregarded their innocence. In some cases, they just didn't care. Every one of the exonerees I've met, their number one passion, their driving passion is to help ensure that no one else goes through what they went through. And I look at it like they come out, no one would blame any of you if you were sitting in the corner in a bar just drinking your troubles away, but instead every one of them is consumed with this fire to prevent this ordeal from happening to someone they never even met. It's amazing. So again, our innocent clients are changing the system and they're changing the world. So let's get down to what this requires from the rest of us. And that is, of course, our continued support for the work of the Innocence Project. And luckily, for you and for me, we can give right now by text to make this work happen. So, you know at these dinners, everyone says, don't take out your phones. Take out your phones, okay? This is gonna cost you money, and you're gonna enjoy it. So, here's how it works. Everybody got their phones out? Let me see. Phones? Wow. This is like, you know, at rock concerts, they do this now. They wave the phone like this because it used to be lighters, now it's phones. Okay, everyone's got their phone out. So I'm gonna do this with you. And just to kick things off, I'm gonna match the first $100,000 that we raised tonight in the room. So all you do is, I'm gonna do this with you. You open a new text, and then you text message to the number 91999. Watch this, 91999. Oops, what happened here? Okay, 91999, and then you go to the instructions are on the screen as well, and they're also on those little cards on your tables. We really did it up this year. And in the message, type the keyword innocence. It doesn't matter, capitals or not. Innocence, I got that. Then a space, and then your name. And you can use any name you want. So, of course, my name's gonna be Stormy. And then your name. So you can use your name, your actual name, or you can use something else more appropriate, like I did. And then you enter the number, the amount that you want to give. I'm going to start off here with a number. You don't have to put the $sign. We know it's dollars. And let's see if that worked. It should come up right there on the screen. Is it? Where is it? Where's Stormy? Stormy, where are you? Did it come up? Am I there? There we go. Oh my God, it's rolling in already. Okay, let's keep it going. Where's my Stormy? Did anybody see it? It didn't work. Hold on. I screwed it up myself. Okay, hold on. Everybody show me up here. 91999. And then, did it come up? Innocence. Stormy? No Stormy? That might be the CIA. I don't know. Let's see. Here we go. That should come up now. Huh? Yeah? Okay, how we doing? Is it rolling in? Okay. Everybody, oh, we're getting some more donations here. All right, I'm gonna stay up here for just a minute or two. Oh, fix the order. My son just texted me, fix the order. Okay, so, Mikey, thank you. I'm doing it wrong? Okay. Mikey, you may have to come up here because I can't believe I'm messing this up and I haven't had it. Oh, yeah, but, okay, that's right. Okay. That's why, innocence amount, then your name. I got it. I knew something was wrong. Okay. This is a little embarrassing. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do, there we go. This is, okay, now this is gonna be like basically a karma auction. I'm gonna auction off good karma. So, as much as you want, you can buy. So, whoever wants some more good karma, just fire up your phone and give it up. And I'm going to turn over the mic and let everybody get on with their dinner. But thank you for being here and for giving. Give till it hurts. It'll hurt me more than it'll hurt you. Thank you.